in the far-forgotten ribs of the Blackthorn Mountains, where the wind howled like old ghosts and the forest floor stayed wet with secrets, lived a man named Rowan Hale, the last mountain trapper of a dying generation, a man carved out of quiet storms, lonely winters and a past no one dared poke. And into his world stumbled Elka, the fat, ridiculed, unwanted outcast of her village, walking up the mountain trail with nothing but a frayed shawl, raw determination, and the weight of every cruel word ever thrown at her. And the villagers whispered she was running away again, probably to cry alone where nobody could see her. But what nobody knew was that this time she wasn't just running. She was trying to start breathing again, because after years of being mocked, bullied, and dismissed, her heart had silently cracked into 1,000 pieces that no one cared to notice. Yet fate, mischievous and strange, had tied her path to Rowan's, for he found her collapsed near the riverbank, muddy, shivering, and whispering apologies to no one in particular, and Rowan, who usually avoided people like a man avoids old wounds, lifted her without a word and took her back to his cabin, perched on the cliffside. A cabin older than his grief, smelling of pine, smoke, and lost time. When Elka finally woke hours later, startled, expecting more cruelty, Rowan simply sat by the fire sharpening a hunting knife, neither threatening nor welcoming, just observing her with storm-grey eyes. And she immediately started apologizing for being a burden, for being too much, too heavy, to everything. But Rowan, without looking up, said in a low, steady voice that sent a strange shiver through her, "Quit apologizing for existing," and those 4 words shook her harder than all the bullying she had ever endured. And when she tried to get up, wobbling on her feet, Rowan finally turned to her and said the sentence that shocked her so deeply she almost sat back down. "Show me your scars." And she froze because she thought he spoke, like all the others, mocking her, waiting to humiliate her. But Rowan slowly put the knife down, leaned forward and added, "I can't help you unless you let me see what broke you." And that was the moment she realized he wasn't talking about her body at all. He was talking about her spirit, her heart, the bruises no eye could see. And so, trembling, she told him everything, the childhood teasing, the boys who pretended to like her to make a joke out of her, the neighbors who laughed at her size, the teachers who ignored her talent, the father who dismissed her dreams, the mother who wished she were prettier, smaller, quieter. And as she spoke, Rowan's jaw tightened. His hands curled around the wooden chair until the edges cracked, because he knew that kind of pain too well. And when she finally whispered that she came up the mountain to end things, to disappear where no one could laugh at her again, Rowan stood so abruptly the lantern rattled, and in a thunder-deep voice he said, "Not in my mountains, not while I'm still breathing." And Elka felt, for the first time in years, that someone believed she deserved to stay alive. Over the next days, Rowan taught her how to walk the forest trails without fear, how to build a fire even in rain, how to listen to the whisper of the wind, how to trust her own strength. And slowly she began to change, not in body but in spirit, standing straighter, speaking louder, daring to laugh, daring to breathe, daring to dream. And Rowan, who claimed he preferred solitude, found himself watching her with a softness that scared him, because he had long buried the idea that he could care for anyone again after losing his wife and child to a winter storm years ago, a wound he never spoke about, but which lived in his eyes like a shadow. One night, as the storm raged outside and lightning cracked the sky open, Elka confessed that she didn't understand why he was helping her, why he cared at all. And Rowan stared into the fire for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. But finally, voice rough as gravel, he said, "Because someone once saved me when I wanted to disappear, and I failed to save the ones I loved afterward. Maybe helping you is my one last chance to set things right." And tears slipped down Elka's cheeks, though she didn't know whether they were for him or for herself. But the world beyond the mountains wasn't done tormenting her. For when a group of villagers tracked her prints up the trail, planning to drag her back and shame her again. Rowan stepped in front of them like a living wall, shoulders broad, voice lethal, as he warned them that if they laid one finger on her, they'd answer to him and the mountains themselves and the villagers, shocked by the fierce protection from the man they always considered a ghost. Backed away, trembling, leaving Elka stunned because no one had ever defended her like that. She tried to thank him, but he simply shook his head and murmured, "You don't owe me gratitude. Just become someone strong, enough that nobody dares break you again." And that sentence lit something inside her, a flame she thought she never possessed. In the weeks that followed, she trained with Rowan, hiking cliffs, carrying logs, learning to hunt, learning to plant, learning to survive, until even the mountains seemed to acknowledge her presence. But life hangs threads of danger, even in the quietest places. For one dawn, as the mist rolled low, Rowan didn't return from checking his traps. And hours passed until Elka, fear twisting her stomach, followed the trail herself, despite Rowan previously forbidding her to wander far. She found him collapsed near the ravine, leg torn by a wolf's ambush, bleeding badly. Yet even in pain, he gritted out for her to stay back, to not risk herself, but she refused, using every ounce of strength he had taught her to drag him back through the forest, slipping, stumbling, praying, screaming at the sky that she wouldn't lose the only person who ever saw her worth. And Rowan, fading in and out, kept whispering, "Don't cry. You're stronger than this. You're stronger than you think." And somehow, through pure, stubborn love, she got him home, tended his wounds, watched over him for days until he finally opened his eyes again. And the first thing he saw was her, exhausted, trembling, but alive with determination. And he murmured, "You saved me. Guess that makes us even." And she laughed, a broken, relieved laugh, because for the first time she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. Months passed, and they formed an unspoken bond deeper than friendship, gentler than love, yet stronger than both. A connection woven through survival, pain, healing, and quiet nights by the fire. And people from the village whispered rumors about the mountain man who stole the fat girl. But Elka no longer cared. She had learned her worth, and Rowan had taught her that the world's voices meant nothing compared to your own. And one evening, as the sun bled gold across the ridges, Rowan asked her to sit beside him, overlooking the valley, where the clouds hugged the earth. And after a long silence, he said, "The first time I told you to show me your scars, you thought I wanted to see your weakness. But truth is, I wanted you to see your own strength." And when she asked why he had chosen her, out of all people, Rowan touched the ground beside her and whispered, "Because the mountains chose you. And so did I." And Elka's heart pounded in a way that felt like coming home. And though neither spoke the word love, it lingered in the air like a soft, warm echo that didn't need to be named. From that day onward, the villagers noticed that when Elka walked down the trail for supplies, she no longer bent her shoulders or lowered her eyes. She walked like someone who carried the mountain inside her. And when they asked what changed her, she simply smiled and said, "I found a place where I wasn't an outcast, and a man who reminded me I deserved to exist." And the villagers, shamed silently by her newfound strength, kept their distance. Years later, people would speak of the woman who became the guardian of the Blackthorn trails, the girl who arrived broken but grew into someone the forest itself respected, standing beside Rowan Hale, the man who once lived alone but found healing in healing another. And when strangers passed through and asked how their story began, Rowan would grin and say, "She came up the mountain running from the world," while Elka would finish, "And the mountains gave me a new one." And that is how legends are born, not from glory or beauty or perfection, but from broken souls choosing to rise again, choosing to protect one another, choosing to become more than what the world said they were. And if you, dear listener, have ever felt unwanted, unseen, unworthy, remember Elka and Rowan's story. For somewhere out there is a mountain waiting for you too, a place where your scars are not shame but proof of your survival. And before this tale fades into the forest wind, don't forget to subscribe to Old Whisper Stories, because more stories like this, deep, wild, emotional, healing, and powerful, are waiting for you, just beyond the next whisper of the mountains.